Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Leisa Reid, host of Rock Your Talk, founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now, trainer at Productive Learning. Excited to be here. We have Kent Glade, a.k.a. Swampy, and you're going to want to hear some of the things that he's got to say because it's going to affect our whole entire planet. Welcome, Kent, to the show.
Hey, Lisa, how are you all doing today?
I'm doing great. I am doing wonderful, enjoying the sun and the sunny weather.
Great. We've had monsoon weather here.
Oh no. Well, it's pretty chill here, I have to say. It's pretty mellow here in sunny California. A couple of things for our viewers to know, some things about our show sponsors. At Get Speaking Gigs Now, we work with speakers on how to get booked, stay booked, and attract their clients through speaking. If you'd like some tips on that, you can go to GetSpeakingGigsNow.com and you'll find 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs. So you want to check that out. Productive Learning is also a sponsor of our show, and I'm a trainer and speaker for Productive Learning. We specialize in personal development, and we train our clients on how to really uncover those thoughts that are no longer serving us and the thoughts that are serving us, and how do we really create intentionally extraordinary lives. So in order to learn a little bit about how you can change your thinking, you can go to productivelearning.com/gift, and you can get our new course called New Thinking for New Actions. It's really cool. Lots of great information on there, and you can just dive right in and watch it from your home. So that's a little bit from our sponsors today. And I'm excited to hear about Kent because he's going to share, this is a really different topic, but something that really relates to all of us. And that's on how to really, should I say, save our planet, right? Like this is like serious,
absolutely
serious stuff. So Kent, welcome. Tell a little bit about you before we get started.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Just want to introduce myself. My name used to be Gary Hahn. I got involved in the biological sciences area and eventually got involved with wetlands. And with that being the case, I chose to change my name to Kentucky Glade, or Kent Glade, also known as Swampy. And what I'm trying to do is spread an international global character for clean water, wetlands, and Earth Day. And I'm here to share with you 3 different points on how to love or save our planet. You know, we have a lot going on as far as with the pandemic now, a lot of things are involved. I wanted to share an entirely new concept. With me, you're going to hear a few amazing stories that I've actually been able to live through and able to be here with you today. One of the first things I want to tell you about is I created a character called Swampy. I'll be talking more about Swampy at the end. My first point is going to be involving the planet. And one of the things that I've done in the planet, I've done an Earth Day special last year. That was 8 weeks to Earth Day. That involved a different topic every week. First week, we talked about the history of environmental protection. The second week, we talked about spheres of influence, hydrosphere, biosphere, lithosphere. Then the next week, we talked about the importance of clean water. Did you know that 97% of our water is unusable? Only 3% is fresh water. And we have as much as 70%, Lisa, of water in the oceans. And we'll be discussing real quickly a few things. We'll be making some points. But the main thing, my focus again, is like Smokey the Bear for forest. I've created Swampy for clean water and wetlands. And folks, I've got a cartoon character. I've got Swampy overalls that I get into. Then I have actually a Swampy suit. And I'll tell you one funny story about that as well. So I have a lot of fun, but my main focus is, folks, is to look at, like, for example, climate change. A lot of people get upset about it. I want to provide a new fun way to look at climate change and clean water. And let me tell you real quickly about a little bit of my background, Lisa. I actually worked for the Kentucky Department for Surface Mining in Kentucky for almost 12 years, regulating the coal industry. And in doing that, I learned about geology, hydrology, soils. After that, I was an urban planner with the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Government. And then I've also worked with FEMA. So I also include natural disasters, which are a tie in to climate change.
Yeah.
So a little bit there. I had an adventurous life. I'll be telling you a few other things later on. But the main focus that I want to focus on this area is, number one, I want to encourage you to think globally. Number two, I would like for you to act locally. And if you can, I'm going to tell you about a few different areas, some areas that you're interested in. I'll leave also an email link. You can check out one of my Cafe Press sites, support Swampy, and our focus for clean water. And again, I've been very privileged to be here with you all. And I'll tell you about, again, another story of really importance of why I'm here. So again, what we're talking about is the planet's clean water, wetlands, the Amazon, and the coral reefs species. And then real quickly, I want to tell you, Leisa, that the big focus that I'm looking at right now is a planet-demic. Because a lot of things in our planet, Leisa and folks out there, like for example, the waters are like the blood life streams, the oceans, our streams, which are what wetlands are, marines, estuaries, etc. The body part is like the Amazon River. You know, we get a lot of oxygen from the Amazon River. And then also our coral beds, our great coral reefs, they're biodiverse as well. And then we look at species, they're kind of like the organs. And in Swampy, you'll find out I have a real passion for the animals as well. So that's the first part of thinking about your planet, loving your planet, and seeing what you can do to be sustainable. And I'll be pointing a few more of these out as we talk, Leisa.
Great, great. Okay, so yeah, that's a lot. Like you're literally like looking at all these different aspects. I love that phrase, plant. Well, I don't love the phrase that we have this phrase, but planet-demic. I get what you're saying, and metaphorically speaking, that the Earth is like a human. Like if you think of it as a body, exactly. I never heard it described that way. So it makes sense why we're having some of the challenges that we're having in our climate. As you said, you know, if your heart is hurting or your brain is hurting or your organs are suffering, then it's going to affect your system. So I know you briefly mentioned you had 3 tips, and one was think globally. So what would you share? How do we do that? Like where do we start?
And let me just I'll restate what I said earlier about thinking globally. We have a lot of major issues. Like I told you, we have as much plastic in the oceans floating as much as a state. So we have single-use plastics that if you follow the law of gravity, everything's going to land up where? Into our oceans. So we have our sea life and our animals that are being caught up, and the water can actually change its in systems. The plastics will actually integrate into the water column. You know, also the other things is a lot of times biodiversity, you know, our oceans are becoming more acidic. They're becoming warmer. We're losing more of our ice shelf in different areas. We've got a great young person, Greta Thunberg. She's taken a big stand about renewable. We have something called a New Green Deal, and we're just looking at some of these areas. The other thing is the Amazon River. We have fires. Right now, we have huge fires in California, Leisa. And then we've got fires down in the Amazon jungle. Great place for biodiversity. They basically chop the woods down, and then they plant grass for more beef. And we lose all the biodiversity in this great thing called the rainforest of the Pantanal in Brazil and some other surrounding areas. So again, what are our major areas that we're looking at? Again, species, we have invasive species, we have endangered species, which you can break down in each of these components, and I'll be talking about Swampy in a little bit. And we can, in a good way, laugh, have fun, and bring our children into improving our planet.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like if I'm a person listening and you say think globally, part of it is thinking of those different areas in our world that are affected by just even like using plastics, or how can I, as a human being, like see my effect on the whole entire system, I guess is what you're saying.
And again, it just starts off, for example, I'm shopping at a grocery store. They will no longer take, plastic bags because they're afraid they're have germs on them, etc. So now I bring my other bags there, and then they treat those bags like they have a curse on them, So it's like you have all this anxiety and all these things, and we have enough. When you hear about the environment, folks, I know people are upset with climate change. You know, in Kentucky, I was brought up in carbon land. I got my degree from forestry at UK, source of carbon. Glade, the coal industry, another source of carbon. And then I also talk about the importance of having sinks and sources. So the main thing is you learn about your world, you share that with your kids, okay, and be interactive. And this way we can do some great things to improve our planet for the long term.
Okay. And then point number 2, I think you mentioned, was act locally, right?
Well, actually, I have both of those on the first one.
Okay. Okay. What's your
area
second?
That I've got, yeah, the second,
Okay.
and I'll be kind of jumping a little bit back and forth, but the main one, again, yes, think globally, just act locally. And again, what I'm trying to tell you to maybe think about is clean water, climate change, invasive species, depending on what your interests are. So again, that's for the planet, okay? The second area I want to show you is, you know, I used to become a scientist and just to be about science, but in order for us to change our world, I'm going to ask you to become present. I'm going to share with you a story that for me was life-changing. Back in 1997, I was traveling back from Frankfort, Kentucky after regulating the coal industry for the state. And I looked head on and I was hit head on in an auto accident by a 41-ton rock truck. And I came to and I was looking and I had glass, and these are other stories that I talk about, okay? And I tell folks, well, I accepted my Savior at 12. I learned the scientific method in college. So it's somewhere between faith and measurement. But no, seriously, Lisa, I came to, and I'm like, okay, my experience is like a movie, right? So I went through this entire experience, and they called it Innis fatality. And I had 7 surgeries. Some of them were not as good as other ones. The simple surgeries might be hard. The hard surgeries could have been a breeze. So what I really learned is things can be random and also constant or organized. So it changed my life, Lisa, as far as what? Urgency. You know, every day, everything that's in front of us, there's no promise that we will be here tomorrow. Right. So for me, I thought to myself, I really need to step forward on this. And I became more impassioned with what I wanted to do. So for me, after 50 years, I will tell you about what I changed. I had major brain trauma, okay? And I had to learn how the brain works. So what I found out was, and I wish they taught me this in grade school or high school, is in order to find out how to change our world, we need to do what's called being present. And did you know our future decisions cannot be controlled unless we take a breath, breathe, see the situation, and choose at that point in time that we want to change our life. You know, I didn't do that for a long time, Lisa, and I found out that our amygdala automatically defaults on our past. So it's like insanity. If you want to change your life, how can you change your life if you don't stop, take a breath, look at what's going on, step outside of yourself, and choose to do something that will be kindness to the planet, and to other folks. And this is really important. I know the environment's great. In order for us to become a conscious planet, it's not just about science, but it really is about people's lives and changing people's lives to where this becomes right now as important as jobs. I mean, we really have a big situation, some big issues. A lot of our regulations are being removed and our nature and the balance is in jeopardy. So number 2 is to be present and be right now. So, and I welcome your experiences, what you went through. That's what my thing is. The other thing is I like to talk to folks in particular, and I'm interested in what you've done and how you're dealing with what's going on here now, ways that you get out in the woods and release anxiety. So again, just sharing that with you, Lisa. And that's point number 2, becoming present in the now.
Yeah, and again, I'll revisit what I shared in the beginning about productivelearning.com/gift, where you can get that course, New Thinking for New Actions, which really ties into what you're just saying there in terms of if we want to shift our behavior, whether it's how we act as a planetary citizen, to help change the environment. Anytime we change action, we want to, connect to that vision of why am I changing this action? Because it's just easier to do the way I did it before, right? And get connected to that, and even become aware of what are the actions that you are taking that aren't really serving you anymore. So it's totally ties into exactly what you're talking about, where we know that we start to at one point hopefully learn, oh wow, my thoughts are really powerful, they're really important. But if we're not even aware of them, or aware that you are living in a pattern, like repeating past behavior, it's difficult to change if you're not even aware of it. So we want to like teach you, how could you create new actions? Well, we want to start thinking about creating new thinking in order to do that. And so that ties right into what you were talking about.
Exactly. Mindfulness. I've learned how to breathe. That's cool. I try to be focused on the positive. I also encourage people to take a star. You stop and see the situation, take a breath, assess it with kindness and goodness, and respond with love for your fellow man, etc. I'm also going to share with you towards the end my third point. But
Yeah,
number
let's hear that.
two again is being mindful and being present.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share that with you through number two. And is there any other questions as far as on two? Lisa, are we okay on that?
We're good to go. Let's hear the final tip.
I'm going to give you guys some fun story. You're talking to somebody who's had a fairly adventurous life. Number three is, this is a very compelling story. I just want to share with folks what happened to me as a child. At 1 year old, I lost my dad. At 12 years old, I lost the very source of my living, which was my mother. I was very close to my mother. You know, when my dad died at 1, my mother was left to raise 4 children, including me, by herself.
Wow.
And she had some mental challenges. And it was interesting to see the people around me. And I was the youngest, the baby of the families, okay? And so I had to go where? In an orphanage. So I went to an orphanage. She went to an institution. She came back. She was better. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go back there. But then, unfortunately, one time she did lose her life at 12. And for 6 years, I'm like, okay, I've got to focus on being good, a good student, a good civic student, helping folks out. And at that point, I did that. And then I write a book about it. But the main thing I was going to share with you in doing that, it was back in the 60s. And a lot of people don't really know, Lisa, I was a child of the 60s, when John F. Kennedy got shot back in 64. I'll never forget that. We were involved in the Vietnam War. We had, oh my gosh, civil rights folks, even back in those times, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy. A lot of great people lived. And I really don't see those people today. And this is what really concerns me, Lisa. So the third paragraph I want to point about is our future. And sharing that with you as far as, okay, I lost my dad at 1, I lost my mother at 12, I graduated, I went to college, got a degree, had a great marriage for 28 years, had a lot that has gone on around me, had some great stories. One of the books that I'm writing is a novel, and it's called This New Kentucky Home. And I'm writing like a Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer book, okay? What happened in the 60s? And in the old days, you had guys that used to jump trains, you know what I'm saying? And one of the times it was called The Dare, that I have a chapter called The Dare, where I actually jumped the train.
Wow.
And it's just all these stories about what happened. But what I'm going to tell you about right now is what's really important about, number 1, your planet. Number 2, being present. Number 3 is our future. And when I want to share with you right now something very, very important to me. And this is a character that I created. And my character is called Swampy. And Swampy it's an acronym. And the S is brown, it stands for soils. And the W is for waters, and it stands for blue. And the third one is animals. And they're like our bio indicators, so I'll put them as red indicators. M is mankind, womankind. That's got to do with land uses and choices that we make that affect our soils, plants, and animals. And then P is green for the plants. And then the last one is Y, and that's for the sunshine, and that's for you. And this is where I reach out to kids. You know what, Lisa? Kids don't really have the really great programs that we had when we grew up. Did you ever remember watching Captain Kangaroo? Do you remember the captain, and then you had Mr. Green Jeans, and you had Dancing Bear? I want to do the same thing with kids using Swampy and Friends. Okay, I want to have Swampy, Kent Glade. I've got characters called the Hydric Heroes, and I've got a buddy of mine. Guess what his name is? Old Cypress. So what we want to do is nurture our planet, to be kind to our planet. We can't just abuse and run over our planet. We need to live in kindness and at one with our planet, you know, in the long run. So this is just one exciting thing, Lisa, that I wanted to share with you, working with kids. And I've got a website, swampy.org. And kids can actually fill out a PDF. Kids like to draw pictures, Swampy. And got some great pictures. You'll see them on and they will really impress you. And they'll draw Swampy. I'll share with you next about in my costume, about the great places it's taken me. And you can actually watch me on YouTube as well, Lisa.
Oh, great. So
that initially, I'm going to say a few more things about Swampy, but it's something my giving back. Yeah, I survived a 41-ton rock truck. Yeah, I survived an orphanage. And the main thing is creating a kinder, gentler planet. You know, I was on a cruise one time, Lisa. I don't know if you remember Dr. Wayne Dyer. It was a hay house. And sometimes when I take off my hat, I look like Dr. Wayne Dyer. I had 4 women wanted me to sign their book on Hay House, okay? But anyway, I got a chance to meet Dr. Dyer's daughter, Sky, and I gave him some Swampy stuff, and he's no longer with us, but he wrote a great book called Your Erroneous Thoughts back in the 70s. And I've been a great follower of hers as well. So, but anyway, that's a little bit about Swampy. Did you have any questions right now?
No, I think you covered a lot for our listeners to hear about in terms of, you know, how to be a planetary citizen, and a little bit about your story and how to bring kids into the conversation. You can go to swampy.org if you want to find out more. You can download that picture so that your kids could color that in. And if you want to look at, if you're out there listening and you want to bring a program like that into your schools, I'm sure you can reach out on the website to figure out how to do that, right?
That's right.
Okay, great.
And the other thing I've not really told you guys that much is I did want to say just a few things. I want to show you, don't think y'all seen this, but this is my tie. See, I've got Swampy on my tie.
Oh, cool.
See that? I did that with my colors. And here's another picture of Swampy. See the soils, water, plants? So I love creativity. Cool. That's the other thing, as far as kids and creativity. But I did want to share you a fun story. Back in 1994, then Vice President Al Gore was in Louisville, Kentucky at an organization at a conference called Rio to the Capitals. And I'm like, man, I've got to meet Al Gore. He used to be senator of Tennessee, right below Kentucky, and a big fan of his. And I'm dressed in my Swampy costume. Guess what, folks? I've got blue for the waters, brown for the soils, green for the vegetation. Got my Swampy face. And then underneath it, I've got these swamp tunes. And then I get on rollerblades and I start rolling along. I got within 400 feet of then Vice President, and the Secret Service jumped on my costume.
That sounds probably like a good idea on their part.
So anyway, yeah, exactly. I mean, I tell these funny stories, but the reason I'm telling you, people have so many ideas themselves, okay? Passions and causes. And that was just a quick, funny story
Mm-hmm.
about
That's
Swampy
great.
in his spoon. So yeah,
Well,
it
your
was.
passion is definitely clear, and luckily for all of us, you're out there fighting the good fight and educating people, and you bring in all your professional knowledge and background to people like kids and adults, and in all different kinds of ways. So I know that I appreciate your efforts, and I wish you the best with the swampy.org. I know people can go there and check it out. So thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. And one last thing, real quick, Lisa. Again, thank you very much for letting me chat with you today. I did recently start a 501c3,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Swampy Inc. And
Mm.
I'm looking forward to. I'm getting ready to actually work with a group over in Africa, providing them clean water
Oh, great. Wonderful.
and water step. But I'm looking for folks who want to take Swampy to the next
Mm-hmm.
level. Lisa, I've been doing this since 1995 myself,
Wow.
and I've got great ideas, curriculums. Have a lot of things. I've got a book that I'm getting ready to publish called
Mm-hmm.
Swampy the Living Wetland.
Oh, great.
And but I like to partner with creatives, also companies, corporations, to give a little bit of back. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we need to do that in the long term and make people feel good, because that really takes a lot of the anxiety when we become friends and kindness. And
Mm-hmm.
last thing to say, given the choice between right and kindness, like Dr. Wayne Dyer said, choose kindness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I say after hopefully every show, if I remember, is to be kind to yourself and to be kind to somebody else today as well. So we are on the same page today. Thank you for being our guest. And listeners, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Have a good day.